Let me introduce Michelle Evans, George Davis, Crystal Swope, and Carol Singleton, the new facilitator of the museum here. So thank you very much.
Things were going pretty well until one night, one of my roommates, who was a lot older and just got out of the Navy, thought it'd be fun to get me drunk. Things went well until the second beer run to the store. Unfortunately, across the street from the liquor store was a small Pontiac dealer. And in the showroom, they had a brand new, not even released to the public yet, 68 GTO Ram Air 4 red convertible, 4-speed, white leather interior, and all the options, including the 4-speed. As fate would have it, some moron left the back door to the dealership unlocked, and two drunken fools ended up standing in the showroom at around midnight looking at one badass GTO. Even more bad luck, the keys were in the ignition. I told my friend what I was going to do, and he decided to bail. Smart. He was Navy, so they're smarter than Marines, of course. I have to mention here that all this is what I've learned from people telling me things that were going on about the great GTO escape in 1967, because I have no actual memory of it. There was a silent alarm, and as I was crashing through the showroom window, the local police arrived just in time to see me hit the street. They put lights and sirens on, and the chase began, reaching over 120 miles an hour, according to the police report, and culminating with me running into the back of a parked car. Took it out and three others, spinning backwards and knocked down a light pole, and then launched the GTO into another parked car. I was thrown through the roof, it's convertible, and onto someone's lawn, poor guy. I woke a day or so later in the hospital and had pretty bad internal injuries, head trauma, compressed spine at my neck that I still have a curvature from. And I was in big trouble, but it was 1967, and the military needed more inductees for Vietnam. In court, the judge and the DA agreed that if I joined the military, and they'd reduce all the charges so long as I paid back everybody whose property I destroyed.
I served during the Vietnam era, but never in a war zone. My specialty of working on nuclear missiles precluded me from ever leaving stateside. Many of the people in our squadron were bomb loaders who had been overseas, primarily in Thailand, supporting the B-52 raids into North Vietnam. I heard some crazy stories from the guys returning from that duty. Some of them were a little off-kilter when they came home and often seemed very reckless, such as the time a couple of them left the highway and took off across the countryside for a joyride in a pickup truck. Neither were wearing their seatbelts. The driver smashed the truck into a ditch, and the passenger snapped forward and left his entire mouthful of teeth embedded in the dashboard. He was very proud of his dentures after that. I also saw a lot of drug abuse from those coming back from Thailand.
I didn't realize that I would be completely giving up my freedom and that I couldn't just change my mind and say, oh, this really isn't working out for me. I was like Private Benjamin and even permed my hair before I went in because I thought it would be easier to style. Little did I know that they would cut my hair almost completely off, take away all my makeup, strip me of my civilian clothes, and give me a completely new identity. As much as I disliked being in the Army, it forced me to take responsibility for my life and gave me a sense of purpose and confidence. I learned that I could do things I never thought I could do. Most importantly, it opened my eyes to different cultural perspectives and made me more open to new experiences and ideas.
I thought I could somehow prove to myself through joining the military that I could be the man that everyone told me I was. My brain was wired female, as I had known from my very earliest childhood memories. Unfortunately, most people seem to have the fixation on genitalia over brains, so I had been forced to learn how to be seen as male in a society that didn't yet have the word transgender in their vocabulary. Somehow I felt that I would be just fine in a military career. Even though I thought I was well hidden, I had been bullied relentlessly during school. Maybe this would change under the regimentation of service life.
The low point of my service was when I was between basic training and AIT. I took a Greyhound bus from Fort Jackson, South Carolina to Fort Gordon, Georgia. Because our training would not begin for about a week, we were assigned to sergeant major detail, which basically meant cleaning duty. They would farm us out to different parts of the base to do various chores. I, along with 2 other privates, was assigned to a supply sergeant. He assigned me to organize the supply room and sent my 2 male counterparts to sweep out the warehouse. When I went into the supply closet, it was immaculate. There was absolutely nothing I could do to make it any better. As I was looking around, the sergeant in charge barged in, swung the door to close it, and slammed me against the shelves with his body and started groping me. He kept saying, "You know you want me. You know you want me." And I kept saying, "No, I don't. No, I don't," and tried pushing him off me, but he was too strong. Fortunately, he had not closed the door all the way, and the 2 privates who were with me walked by to see what the commotion was, and that was enough to scare the sergeant, and he let me go. At the end of the day, when we were walking back to our barracks, I asked the 2 guys who were with me if I should report the attack, even though I didn't know how or to whom I would report such an incident, and would they corroborate my story. They were terrified of getting into trouble and said if I reported it, they would say they didn't see anything. Female soldiers in the Army had to always be on guard, particularly of the higher-ranking soldiers in their chain of command. There were no sexual harassment classes when you entered the service back then, and there were no instructions on how to report sexual assault. Women just dealt with it. It was nearly mandatory to have a boyfriend, so you had some sort of protection.
Most U.S. civilians believe Iraqis are the enemy. One man recently called them savages during a conversation with me. I wouldn't say that's the case. I enjoy telling stories of the young men I met, telling me how much they loved watching U.S. action-adventure movies with Bruce Willis and Arnold Schwarzenegger, how they dreamt of getting married and having a family after the country was safe again. I didn't get any warm fuzzies from the older men and women in Iraq, but the young adults and children seemed to love us. Once when I was standing in the road blocking traffic because we had found an IED, a car full of young men and women with huge smiles on their faces asked me questions and thanked me for being there. They looked all over their car for something to give me to show their appreciation, but didn't really have anything with them, so they took their cassette tape out of the tape deck and handed it to me. We would be driving in the middle of nowhere when all of a sudden kids would pop up out of the ground and come to our trucks, and they would sell us bootleg DVDs, and we would give them candy and food from our MREs.
As much as I thought I was prepared and trained for Vietnam, I was very naive. If you got to see the pictures of me as a baby-faced kid when I first got there versus the Marine combat vet I was a few months later, it's obviously the change in my looks and my attitude. I was not the easygoing young person any longer. I became a Marine sergeant and was a kid looking through old man eyes. I had thought we'd be welcome there as the brave warriors saving the South Vietnamese from the evil commies. Not the case. They just wanted to be left the hell alone and resented if not downright hated us.
I didn't know how scared I was at war until I was about to leave. I was lying on my cot in Kuwait, resting, when Don came in and told me our names were on the plane's manifest to leave in the morning. I laid there quietly until he walked out, and then I involuntarily burst into tears. My body was trembling, and I realized I was crying because I could finally be honest with myself about how I was feeling.